All right. Well, Magnus, I'm glad you're here because we're looking at your hex map first thing. uh, sorry, sorry about that. Trying to wind down for Thanksgiving. I'm sure folks even outside the U.S. are probably at least aware of Thanksgiving. Well, it's tomorrow. I'll be traveling up country into the great state of Massachusetts tomorrow, early in the a.m., trying to wrap up stuff. I couldn't think of anything to cover. I didn't want to cover anything. I didn't want to cover anything today that I didn't think I could get through in some amount of time because I knew there'd be a big gap. I'm not going to stream tomorrow, and I don't think I'll be streaming on Friday. And then there's the weekend, so it's going to be, 4 days until I stream again. So I didn't want to do stuff that I just have to, try to come up with, try to remember or leave things halfway. So I thought, well, let me do some kind of community stuff, just make it kind of nice and easy. And then I thought, well, not that this is not community stuff, that I have some stuff that was posted to the forums. So thanks so much for folks to help on the forums. And one of which was something that we've talked about before, which is looking at some hex maps. This one was posted by Magnus, who's editing his forum posts as we speak. I'm back on, if you're asking, anyone's asking, I'm back on Ouija today. Because Ouija, I find is really great for this. I haven't tried out other mind mapping things, but here I was able to really nicely just get all of Magnus's 3 images here all together, and I wrapped this in a little thing so I know these are his, and I can actually probably use this same whiteboard for all of the submissions, or I don't know if at some point this thing would choke on or get just too sluggish if I threw a bunch of images in here, but for this, super handy. Hey, Chaos Juncture, and hey, Ian. Hey, Dave. I saw your message at the top. Yep, everyone's doing it. My wife is super good. I'm just buying a pie to take. We're going to my in-laws, her brother's house. We're going to, my in-laws. She cooked a bunch of stuff, and she's always super good on that stuff. She's already cooked 3 different things that she's got ready to go. I'm buying a pie first thing in the morning. So that's my contribution. All right, so let's see what we got here. So this outer hex is, mac and cheese. Ian's making mac and cheese. Send some over. I do like a good mac and cheese. So the name of this area is Fenhirth, which is in the central part of the Central Marches. Oh, the Dave. Wow, Dave, you do all the cooking? Oh man. I'm with you though, Dave. In terms of cooking, when I'm cooking, I just want to be alone in the kitchen. I don't want people coming in. I don't want people looking over my shoulder. I don't want other people doing stuff. And I do get very irritated. I'm always like, just let me do my thing. I need more cooking. I need more things that I'm good at cooking. I'm good at cooking a couple of things. I think I'd probably, if I had to cook one thing, if I got on some kind of celebrity, I mean, not me being a celebrity, but some kind of like celebrity chef judges your thing, I'd make steak, because I actually do think I make a pretty darn good steak. But I need to spread out more. Oh, he was an army cook. All right. Did they call you Cookie, Dave? Like they do in all those old westerns? Always the cooks were always named Cookie. Okay, so we're in Fenhirth. Also, Magnus said the 3rd page is a repeat. Is it? It is a repeat. Is that my mistake on the repeat, or is that your mistake on the repeat? Well, I'll get rid of it for now. Goodbye. We'll just go with the map first. So we're in, this is called Fenhirth in the Central Matches, or March. We've got this is where it slots into the larger map. Outer hex, 36 miles. Small hex, 6 miles. This is a nice little worksheet, too. So the region, the Veiled March, and it's a temperate climate, and it's grasslands overall. Oh, Mac. Oh. Making mac and mac, making the mac and cheese. That tracks. Key locations. There's not many key locations configured. We do have some kind of castle. And these are village towns. I like the 2 villages, or maybe the same village, on opposite sides of this river. So it looks like we got some grasslands. I'm guessing they're hills. Hey, Magnus, what are these? I was actually looking at this the other day. Were these originally kind of mountain? And it's kind of funny when I just love that it's somebody's handwritten thing. So you can see different like I'm not sure. Is this village here and just was in pencil, or did you not pen it in yet, or did you just not go with it ultimately? So it's in pencil. Hey, Terrence. I feel like you haven't been around lately, Terrence. So glad to see you. So you got these village surrounded, or with the sort of the river going between them. We have some kind of stronghold over here. And now I was asking about these triangles, if these were mountain symbols or something else. Or are they arrows? Kind of arrows leading to the river, either splitting or joining. Don't get at anybody. I don't want to hear about the rivers never split. Save it. I mean, they might be joining. I don't know, but I don't care. I wonder if that's something that we should add more to standard symbology. I think everybody, myself included, tends to take it as assume river flow, but I don't know why. Especially when you're zoomed in. Maybe if you're looking out at the world map, you might. I mean, like in the world, right? Most rivers, or almost all rivers, at least major ones, right, are kind of east-west. They either flow east or west. I think the Nile is the only major river that's north, flows northwards. I guess there must be. I imagine there must be some that flow southwards. I don't know, right? Must be. Is it only that the Nile's the only one that flows north? I don't know. There seem to be rules, but especially in a fantasy world, and especially when you're zoomed in like this. I don't know why we don't include little arrows or something to indicate, hey, Krister, to indicate what flow it's going in. We got some hills, whole swamp area down here. We got some forest, some kind of, what is that in there? A little ghost. Very cool. And then let's see, we don't have any locations. Oh, here we do. So we got the Fenlander Fort. That is, and notice he's put on his own. They probably could have just done this for you, I guess. But this does allow you to have your own naming. In any case, M13 is Fenlander Fort. Magnus says the pencil in town is going to be there, just haven't fleshed it out yet. Aha. Bottom towards the top. That makes sense. And then this kind of, I mean, it's kind of what I was thinking, because just, I'm no geologist or geographist. I don't know. I know nothing, but it would make sense that these two rivers might pull together, and then in this some kind of basin here, they might flow. Flow might widen temporarily into this kind of wetlands, which is cool. Let's see. So we got Lanceford. It's M14. That'd be down here. So this is. It looks like this is one town with the river running through it, which makes sense. Mead Cross is in P14. That's over here. Am I getting that right? Yep. And Geographizer, something like that. Iron Glen is Q12. Where's Q12? 12. Okay, so there's our mysterious, the hidden town of Iron Glen. And now we got, let's see, what's on here? So we have some dungeons. Fenhearth Ruins is in O13. Ooh, where's that? O13. So right smack down. I don't see he didn't put a symbol in there for it. But we know it's there because it's marked on the map, marked in our key here. Lost Pilgrimage Destination. Oh, I like the sound of that. That's P14. Where's P? Over here. And then we've also got, it's in the same place as Mead Cross. Oh, are there two P14s? Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Is that actually, so it's like P14 and a half. P14 bottom. Ian asks which worksheet this is. This is from New Big Dragon Games Unlimited. I'm guessing from maybe their D30 Sandbox Companion. Is that them? Oh, I can't remember. Or you could probably look for them. New Big Dragon Games Unlimited. Oh, and this is Watered down, but nice and cold. Apple cider for the working man. Lance 4, so named because it fords the Lance River. I like it. I'm down with it. High Meadow River. Oh, that's a good one too. So we have some magic string, a magic spring, something place called Blade Shore. That sounds intriguing. Open ground, and some dugout homesteads. Then we've got our wandering monster list. So for the forest, ooh, you didn't check your, you didn't fill out your check every blank turns. I'm guessing just normal. So bear or boar with an asterisk saying 10% chance of dire. I like that. That's cool. Wolves, also 10% chance of dire. Goblins, some monsters, a monster spider, a patrol, or a camp. Ooh, and a manticore. Ooh, but if you roll manticore, 10% chance of dragon. And then we've also got the grassland, herd animals, 10% chance of being dire. No. But 10% chance of being a dragon instead. Intriguing. So one thing, Magnus, I'm curious here. So on this thing, so it says you could, now this is maybe this would be me. This is kind of where my mind went. If you roll herd animals and then you roll the 10% chance of dragon, to me, it'd just be cool if you encounter both. If you encounter the dragon hunting, killing, doing something to the herd animals, as opposed to swapping them out. Not sure if that's your intention. Probably not, but be cool. Yeah. I almost feel like everything could have that dire goblins, dire monster strip spiders, a dire camp, dire manticores. Oh, Magnus, only one answer, so they could be dire. So there could be a chance of dire herd animals. I kind of feel like, and obviously this is me, I would reduce, this is what I would do. Again, you do not have to do this. Don't do this. 1% chance of a dragon being on any of these, and it just can show up. And but whatever it's doing, it's interfacing, except for maybe the manticore, right? Manticore, okay, we don't need the manticores and the dragons, but it'd be very cool if in any of these situations, there's this 1% chance that a dragon's up, and then you'd figure out in the moment like what the deal is. I mean, probably attacking, they're probably not having lunch, having tea. D&D means more dire sloths. D&D means more dire everything. Oh, a magical herd animal. Still. And what happened to number 4? What was in there? I can't tell. Something with a C. Cockatrice? Well, can't tell what was erased. Number 4 was erased. You get nothing. Oh, you moved cockatrice. I think that was cockatrice. That's, yep. Oh, I think I got that right. I think it was cockatrice, and you moved it down, put the stars on. So it looks like your apex predator, so to speak, in these areas might be a dragon. Dave asked if dire could be something you add to any other thing to make a boss monster. I don't know about boss monster, but there used to be. Oh, I don't have the book with me, but you get dire versions of things like dire wolves. Are there dire? Was there dire bears? And at some point in 3rd edition, 3.5, they actually had it as a template, so you could basically add kind of dire as a property almost to other creatures. I don't know if it would make them a boss monster. Well, it would depend on what you started with. But you could basically make a dire. You could make a dire anything. Take anything. You could throw the dire template on top of it, and it would be, plus this, whatever. You get like a size. I think it would grow a size bigger, get stronger. Its attacks might go up a die size or go up something. You could just add stuff to it. You could easily keep that sort of segment. It doesn't exist in something like BX, for example, but I'm pretty sure there are dire things in BX. They just didn't make it a template. Dire roosters, definitely ill-tempered. Hey, Howard Hughes, absolutely. You could make a dire dragon. You can make anything. I mean, that was one of the cool things. I did do a video, I want to say, on some aspects of it, because there was that source book, and it's in the other room, so I can't go get it. But it was called Savage Species. Hey, RPG Grandma. It was called Savage Species, and it was essentially trying to walk through these kinds. I think part of it was the templates, and then part of it was making your own classes from different species. For example, I think one of the examples, we might have gone over this a bit in the video in that stream, but it was a while ago. I mean, everything feels a while ago to me, but I think it was a little while ago. Was they had Minotaur was one, then you would walk through, and it was pretty good because 3 point, so you're in the 3.5 days, so things are pretty complicated. But it was this way of looking at it, and I think it would be great to do something to take that kind of approach and backport it. I know that was always the promise in the white box, right? Oh, you have a player who wants to play a dragon or a demon. Well, you can kind of make it happen. You just got to figure out. You got to figure out how his powers either grow or how they gain them over time. So at level 1, if they were a Balrog, well, they're not a full-fledged Balrog, but maybe they get some little increments, and then they get to level whatever, and then they become a full Balrog. And then the I don't say the twist, but 3.5, you could also have classes on top of creatures. So you could take a Minotaur and then give them fighter levels. So just because you filled out, you got to level 7 or whatever it would be to be a full-fledged Minotaur, you could then start taking fighter levels or do whatever. But that was another thing they had to deal with. But they were trying to kind of give you this setup of like, okay, here's how they should stack up at different levels, and eventually get to levels. I think for Minotaurs level 7 or 8, but it didn't have to be. For dragons, it could be much longer. It could be whatever. But it was kind of cool. But in that 3rd edition time, they had all these templates. You could make anything undead. Undead became a template you could add on to things. You could make anything like a vampire. I think, I don't know. There seemed to be a few of them, and that part I thought of the system from a DM standpoint, I thought was really cool because we get too off, or we most often just look at things as kind of, it is what it is, right? Flip through. But being able to say like, oh, okay, well, it's undead don't have to be humans. They don't have to be skeletons. I guess I should say skeletons don't have to be humans. What if it was goblin or ogre or some other weird skeleton? And having those things as templates meant you still had to prep it because they weren't 3rd edition or 3.5. I don't remember when it came out. It was complicated enough that you couldn't just run with it in the moment, but you could spend 10 minutes pre-game. Say, oh yeah, what if there are undead, zombie manticores? What would that look like? And you could use those templates and just do, and you'd have it. The dire vampiric were-dragon could be. Let's see. Magnus says Giant Eagle was also in the Grassland Encounters, according to their scratch notes, but they remember thinking 2 giant avians was a bit much for a D6 chart. I see. Well, that's why sometimes people like BX, right, breaks it out into each one of those is a category, and that gives you a little bit more room. Why are all these 9? Is there a reason for that? I'm just noticing. Where did they get a 9-sided die from? What are they rolling? I mean, it seems like 10, and maybe that's what's down here, but they don't put the 10. I don't know. I don't know why you'd re-roll it. I'm not sure what that is. That just occurred to me. There's just, they don't stop at 6. They don't go to 12. It's 9. Maybe you're supposed to. I mean, I'd have to look in the book. Maybe they have a concept of on 10 you roll 2 and combine or something like that. But it's just interesting. All right, so that's the grassland. Then we have we don't have anything in the swamp, or we did, but wyvern or dragon on number 5. Then we have the swamp, giant centipedes, always a fan. Shambling mounts, also always a fan. Trolls, zombies, crocodiles, 10% chance of a giant crocodile. Nice. Giant toads or snakes. 9-sided is D8 with mushrooms, says Mr. Hughes. Could be. Oh, Ian's looking. I wonder if it's a typo or something. I mean, a typo on their part, because clearly this is not your printer failing and not getting the 10. There is no 10 here. Ooh, there's no 10 there. I don't know. But okay, so it is theoretically, maybe there was Ian, I'm guessing, I'm just going to guess that there was some kind of, something got through the cracks on an early printing maybe, and they corrected it, would be my guess. So here on the next page, we've got some notes. And I really like these notes because, I mean, look, I think they give you, I mean, obviously your notes are going to be best for you. But you can see just how short they are. So let's see. So what's L12 is Silkwood, which is I guess it's here. L12. And we get, let's see, the forest is shrouded in mist and heavily overrun with silken webs. Monster spiders of all kind infest these woods. And there's an intercap nest and a treasure that haven't been filled out. But you see how simple that is? It doesn't have to be super crazy complicated. It doesn't have to be paragraphs and paragraphs. And he wrote it out narrative style, but you could easily, if you wanted to, if you felt like you just wanted the, just not written in sentences, you could literally just have, shrouded, misty, overrun with webs, kind of thing, right? And then you could basically have all this in a few sentences. But having it written out, is great too. Well, I guess what I'm just saying with this is that I think sometimes when people look at all the prepping for a hex map, is you can, if you want, prep these out pretty darn quickly with a little forethought, and then you've just got them. And as long as your party, once you've prepped these out, and it seems like a lot of squares, and it is, but presumably, let's say they're starting. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. No, I wanted that. Oh, I see. I've got it highlighted. I've got it. You're starting here. You could probably prep these to start. And then maybe you clearly you probably don't want them to go off the map this way. So then when you're seeding kind of ideas, well, there's that ruin over here. There's that pilgrimage. Or I think maybe that was down here. There's this other village here. Clearly there's dangerous areas. Swamps are pretty dangerous. Definitely got dangerous woods. We don't know what's going over here. Mitsubishi has made a plant over here. And we got the hidden. Can you find the lost village of Iron Glen over there? So let's see, M10, for example, which is, why am I all on this edge? I'm going to move off the edge. I think that's just because this page. Rapidly going woodland, overtaking former pasture land. Rumored to be particularly deadly. Very nice. Question, but out of curiosity, who is using this former pasture land? It's a bit far from the keep to be their pasture, I would guess. Or is that what Mitsubishi's up to up here? Bum, bum, bum. Oh, I noticed there was a mark here. What was that? Oh, I don't know. Let's see. Ooh, wood gather here is of exceptional quality. I like that kind of note. Sacred land, many refugees setting here, believing the soil to be blessed. Plain dugout homes. I like this. That's a nice detail on the homes. Fenlander Fort, terrain patched with silken web. Oh, interesting. So the spiders, this to me reads spiders may be incursions. They're not, they're coming. They're flanking. They've got it surrounded, which is kind of a nice note. That's the thing you want with your hex crawling, your hex notes, I don't know, your entries. To me, anyway, is, I have ideas in my head, but of course I'm going to forget them. So I want to write down enough so that I don't necessarily want to write down everything. I want to create a novel, but I want to create enough to jog my memory so I can remember the details. So to me, this is a nice little detail, because even if I'm not going to quite remember what it is, it's going to make my mind think of like, oh yeah, the spiders are encroaching. Let's see. Oh, Magnus with important detail. The middle 7 hexes are a ruined city that's literally sinking into the ground, and the conjoining of the rivers has turned the area into a quagmire. Aha. So there's a giant city. Interesting. That is a big city. Oh, I notice you got some cliff stuff here. Is that because there's a sinkhole? Or it's kind of sinking down? Is that to indicate that you've got a little bit of a... It looks like you got some kind of cliff or height differential up there. Nice. And then we have a M15. We got a dilapidated aqueduct. towers over the hills, magic warped in the area. Also a nice note. Okay. Yep, that makes sense. And then dilapidated. Oh, there's more aqueduct. I see. So the aqueduct is moving. So it's going from the hills, moving over to the plains. Oh, there's a nearby dwarven community in M18. Is that Iron Glen? No, it's not Iron Glen. Where's M18? Oh, it's off the board. Off the board. All right. Well, this is really cool. I don't know if you posted another image, but this is, I think, is good for a start. I feel like these things are really good. You can go to forums.hex.press to see these in all their glory. Magnus points out, okay, so M18 is in. It would be just write this one down here, I'm guessing. Oh, is this is this what those triangles were? Is that the aqueduct? I wonder. That's cool. What's cool? And I think, like I said, I think this is great for showing people kind of what does it realistically look like, right? A lot of times, printed, I was going to say printed products. That's not right. And professional products are trying to go the extra mile to justify the fact that they're charging money for them. But the reality is you can get a lot of mileage over these simple entries. I mean, this is maybe the longest entry, and it's really not very long, and it just has 2 lines because it's got these 2 things underneath. All these other ones, or maybe this is actually the longest one. And this one is what, L14, which is, let me read Blade Shore, because that one, where is L14? So first of all, L14, is that it? Is this L14? Or is this L14? Or is that, I'm not sure. Anyway, let's see. Blade Shore, the river rapids pass over land churned up by ancient magic. The bank is lined with thousands of weapons commemorating an ancient battle. Pillar of the Unbowed or Unbowed. Revive PCs with intact memories. Oh, this is interesting. I'm not sure what it means, but that's pretty darn cool. So I like it. Blade Shore. And that, where's it here? I think the numbering seems to be that maybe it would be right here. Not sure, but cool. Cool. So thanks so much, Magnus, for sharing. Hopefully there will be more. There will be blood and there will be more. Yeah, not so much the blood part, I guess. I marked some other stuff. Look at. Let me see. I think that's that. That's all for that. Oh, I see. Well, I'll get that one. I'll do that one later. I'll save it. There's something else I wanted to talk about. We chatted the other day about Dungeon Master Masterclasses, talking about his party, a potential, not saying a conflict, but feeling a little bit torn between rewarding someone for just being very enthusiastic and putting in a lot of work versus the other folks who aren't doing anything wrong, but aren't putting in that extra work and then extracurricular work, not stuff that he had asked of them, stuff that they're just doing of their own accord. Well, things happened in the game, and it makes for a great story. Hopefully he won't mind me sharing this. So basically, I think he posted, talking about it, and then he said, well, had a TPK. So there's that. And of course, I had to try to ask for some more details. I'll zoom in here. And this is what we got. Okay, the party was on a dangerous journey to a hidden village. Things aren't going great. They think they are near the village when they are attacked by some spectral undead, so things are a little worse. The party talks about how things are going bad, but they decide to try and find the lair of the undead for treasure. During the search, they encounter another group of undead, this one much bigger. The fight goes better than could be expected, but several PCs are almost dead. The wizards are cast out, and one has a critical injury, making his left arm useless. The party talks about how bad things are, almost decides to try and hole up somewhere, but instead the wizard uses his last spell, Fly, to scout for the village and finds it. They enter the village. It is very isolated and things are clearly weird. They barely eke out a non-hostile reaction. They find out more about the village. Something is up with the Baron in charge, and the town has an unknown but endemic night sickness going around. Party talks about how bad things are and that they need to rest up before engaging with any of this weirdness. But the healer decides to go check on a girl with the night sickness real quick right before bed. And the girl has night sickness. The girl that has night sickness has 2 fang marks on her neck. The healer literally runs back to the party and screams, "He's an effing vampire. The Baron is a vampire." The party talks about how bad things are and how they can definitely not fight a vampire, and they will be skipping town and hiding or taking their chances in the wilderness. But maybe the priest could do something for this girl that is being turned into a vampire on the way out of town. So they go back to the house. Remember how this was happening right before bed, right after sundown? They open the door to the girl's room and vampire. The Count is there feeding on her. The party talks about how bad things are and that they cannot defeat this vampire. But instead of running immediately, they stick around for 4 or 5 rounds, and by the time they actually try to flee, it's too late. The last character left alive is the wizard that cast Fly to scout the town, who might have been able to escape with that spell, but instead, TPK. Now, he goes on to note that the campaign is West Marches style, so even though there was a TPK, there are 3 PCs that weren't there, so there is some uncertainty about what the players want to do next. Make new characters, start a new campaign, mount a rescue/revenge mission, etc. As None Nothing points out, well, I think you're in that campaign, None Nothing, so you could probably give some more context of which one of the late adventures you were, what was your part in it, or were you one of the 3 that wasn't there, or both? And one, it's a as I think he said prior to this, a tale as old as time, and it is. And that's why I had to throw in the whammy, because this is what happens. This is so many ways a classic tale. You're trying to push your luck. You want to just do one more thing, just one more room, one last thing, one thing, and then you push your luck too many times, and then in the moment maybe you think you can hang with it. Maybe you're thinking like, oh, it's vampire, but if we can just maybe we can all attack him in the first round. Maybe we can do something. Can we do it? And then you're dead. But what I like about this story, I think it's an illustration. And of course, this is from the GM's point of view, but None Nothing, who was there playing the fighter that got charmed in those 4 rounds after we should have run. That as a player, I imagine the player, None Nothing, you could probably chime in. I would feel like ownership of the situation, right? I think a lot of folks, GMs, when they hit a TPK, they think it's kind of their fault. Maybe the players are going to think it's their fault. It's, oh, what did I do? Why was my encounter so hard? Why did I do this to the party? But as you can see, this isn't the GM's fault. This is the party with multiple chances to pull back, to take a rest, to save it for another day, to do whatever, and acknowledging at every turn, man, we're hurt, we're beat up, we're low, but you're always pushing to do that next thing, and it bites you in the butt. So as a player, I'm thinking like, yeah, that's really sad, but we did that, right? I shouldn't have done that. I mean, there may be probably a half dozen times where someone in that party probably think themselves, we shouldn't have done, should have saved it, should have waited one more day, should have backed out. And I think that's kind of like how it should be. But I also think that the other thing I think this shows is the players' engagement with the game. They're not doing stuff. Now, granted, the treasure's for kind of self-aggrandizement. They want to get experience points and treasure and loot. But that's part of the game. That's baked in, so that's fine. Trying to do stuff like, can we just save this one kid? Can we check on this one kid? Can we save them? Can we just do this one thing? Like, those are all things that show that they're fully engaged with the fiction of the game, which I think is great, and led to a TPK. But hey, this is what happens when you take risks. Sometimes you gotta pay the piper. And now this vampire, hopefully this vampire is someone that they want the survivors, or not the survivors, the folks who weren't there, and the new characters, maybe they're going to want to go and take their vengeance on that vampire, go set things straight. I mean, I know I would. So it's a sad story, but it is an old story, and it's a good story. And another thing, I can feel you on the fighter thing, because in the last week in Daniel's game, my fighter got charmed by some weird ent-like creature, and I ended up hacking down one of our hirelings, so I felt bad about that too. It hurts getting charmed. No, I wasn't. I was sorry. I didn't get charmed. I got confused, but kind of a charm-like effect. I was confused, not charmed, but still. Oh, okay. So these are just those maps I pulled out. What else we got? So that's all I have from the forums. But come and hang out. We are a small bunch, but we're here to, I think, have good conversation and share stuff and do stuff. So it's forums.hex.press. That's my. I won't shout it out anymore this stream. I don't think. I pulled up some other stuff. Yep, nothing says we were overconfident. Too much success in earlier sessions. Yeah, I get it. That it happens, man. You got to really be on guard for that as a player. Heck, as a GM, just in terms of understanding what's going on, you can get overconfident. Okay, I have a few blog things I pulled up. I'm not sure. I meant to order this in kind of order I wanted to cover them. So I'm just going to go, I'm just zooming in a bit and I'm going to see, okay, I want to do this FKR resurgence post because we've just been doing some FKR recently. This campaign retrospective, I think, looks good. I am interested in Bonefire, but that one, going to kind of throw these. Yeah, I'll put that one. Yeah, Confused Wolves, I'm not into. Oh, yeah, the Mummy as a dungeon. Put that one second. Big fan of the Mummy. Dave says it'll even be even more fun if the GM has the player characters return as vampire henchmen. Oh, yes. If you're listening, Dungeon Master Masterclass, the Dave's got an excellent thing for you. They absolutely should be some kind of, I don't know, thrall, baby vampires, vampire, whatever they call that, those sort of vampire cronies. Okay. We're on to halflingshorde.wordpress.com. This is called an FKR resurgence post. So we've done some FKR stuff of late. And so I saw this being posted up and I thought, okay, this would be pretty cool. So no, thank you. So the TLDR here is go check out the links to have great games others have made below. They're so simple. Anyone can play them. And if you don't believe me, give it a try. I'm playing with a group of 11 to 14-year-olds. They're doing just fine with a system as simple as those listed below. They can. I'm sure you can too. Yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously, look, I'm coming from a background in sort of, old school OSR kind of gaming. And part of that is that simplicity. And I'm finding more and more that I'm not sure that we need to really drill down, even as much as, say, a D20 system does with a bunch of modifiers. That probably is maybe the cleverest thing about advantage, disadvantage was, I think, how much it works for a lot of stuff. And it's super simple. It's just roll 2 dice, take the best or take the worst, right? Easy. And they could have even expanded it and let you have multiples. I kind of like that, I think, a little bit more than just having them cancel out, because I like to be able to stack things. I want players to think about multiple advantages or disadvantages and how they might do it. So I don't love if you just have one advantage, disadvantage, they just cancel out for all time and you can't get any more kind of thing, and it's a different given spot. But I think it kind of showed that ultimately maybe it's not as important as we think it is. Hey, dudes, thanks for becoming a member. Welcome aboard. So here's what Halfling Sword, or who is this? Is that what they say, a Halfling Master? I don't. Halflings, do they go by Halfling Sword or Halfling Master? Does it say? Oh, Derek Bizier. Okay. So many RPGs. I've been going through a bit of a resurgence into FKR playstyle. Forget the tome of rules. Adopt a simple catch-all rule that can be easily manipulated for almost any situation. Enjoy the world of your game with your players. So many games are being made today, and I'm no stranger to the FOMO that causes the need to buy up all the new systems that are released. I have a bookshelf full of games that my partner would love for me to clear out, or at least prove to her that I need them. Settings and adventures I can easily explain away as things that I will someday use to run for my students, my home group, or if my local anxiety ever lets me, maybe even for complete strangers at my local con. But what is the real driving factor behind buying so many game systems? There are some people who purchase the game and play it exclusively for years. Why do I keep getting new games? Am I hoping to find the perfect resolution mechanic? Is it a fear that the one game I fail to buy will see me missing the perfect character stat array? Terrence says, for some reason, he misheard me saying halflings heard a who. Well, they might. If anyone would hear a who, it might be a halfling. Settings in the rules. Epic of Dreams, Old School Essentials, Neo Geek Revival, Numenera, Murkburg, Mazes, Midwendir, White Hack, The Black Hack, Diceless Dungeons, Burning Wheel, Trophy, Best Left Buried, The One Ring, and many other Year Zero games for Free League, Sword and Wizardry, Through Sunken Lands, Warlock, Songbirds, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Maze Rats, Mouse Ritter, Lost Eons, Fallen, 17th Century Minimalist, Into the Odd, Bastards, Troika, and Brindlewood Bay. That is without even going to my shelves. Look, the point is, I have a lot of stuff. There are games for days here. Many of these games also have settings involved. My Trophy Loom book drips with setting informing tables. Mouse Ritter has a different thing that has you playing as mice in the animal world. Troika is there for all of your planar traveling needs. Numenera is the setting I love most among any world I've played in or run. The One Ring allows me to transport to the world of Middle-earth. Brindlewood Bay gives us a quiet, cozy New England seaside town where eldritch horrors lurk just off the shore. Settings abound in these books, plus many different resolution mechanics litter these pages. Building my rules toolbox. Best Left Buried was one of the first books I bought that eschewed the usual 6 stats for a character. I was intrigued by the thought of only having 3 stats, but more importantly, from Best Left Buried, I found the advice to make monsters different, give them some sort of tag or description that informs the players, instead of just telling them they're facing a cave troll, for instance. Do you really need that? Because I don't actually say you're facing a cave troll unless the party has seen enough of them and they've been given the label cave troll so that they know it's a cave troll. Black Hack has given me the usage die. OSE carries tons of tables and gives me rules for my players building a kingdom. White Hack has lovely magic rules that I've spoken about before. Midwendir gives me a single resolution roll in the game, eloquently, I might add. Trophy has D6 dice pool resolution where you can add dice to increase the risk to the characters, not to mention the Devil's Bargain rule. So good. I could continue with games and their contribution to my mental referee toolbox. Each game has given me something to use, a tool for a situation. Dungeon World gave us a 16 hit point dragon, which has a whole world of other things involved with it that I love about the current state of RPGs. But what will I use for my toolbox? Magna says they feel mood kindred with the author of this post. Yes. I feel like most folks get in this hobby, and at some point they do. They must. Because I don't know anybody who's been in this hobby for any amount of time that doesn't have more stuff than they need. Like, I don't know who is who's like the tiny home, who's kind of living the tiny home lifestyle equivalent in a in this hobby, but nobody I've ever met. And look, and I really would be totally happy playing some version of BX white box kind of D&D, at least for fantasy, forever. And yet I'm still super intrigued by all kinds of different and new systems. Dave says, I love having townspeople called giants, cave trolls, or ogres. These people aren't lore masters and they don't have a monster manual. They don't know the difference. Absolutely. And RPG Grandma says, we need it all. Okay, I am drawn back to the ancient way. FKR is a set of principles that are loosely defined through the phrase play world. It is as simple as that. But when gaming, one may feel the need to introduce rules for helping the players interact with the world. Let's look at some of the most basic staples of the genre. The following games are all pay what you want on itch and should be perused fully for the best understanding of each system. But never fear, you will not find any 200 pages listed here. All of these games are meant to be rules light and get out of the way at your table. Thank you to all the creators who have forged the way for me. The ref will let you know. So this is from Primeval 2D6. The ref will let you know risks that your character is taking on, as well as the fictional impact. Both sides roll 2D6, and the higher roll gets to say what happens within the context of the stated risk and impact. On ties or very close rolls, per referee discretion, both sides negotiate what happens. Okay, this is a rule set. Anything added on is only needed if there is something about the world that needs to be expressed through an additional mechanic. So in Middle-earth Adventures, this is a quote from Middle-earth Adventures by Sam Dobler. When a character suffers great anguish, is affected by a terrible evil, or commits a misdeed, their corruption is increased by 1. When a character rolls and the dice shows equal to their corruption, they are made miserable. If the dice show lower than their corruption, they suffer a bout of madness and deteriorate. Corruption is not easily removed. It should not be taken lightly. Okay. And then we've got more down here. There need not be more than a simple set of guidelines for play. The rules can be as simple as this. There are some who prefer a target number to roll against on anything that is being tested against the world. I see no issue with this at all. And in fact, here's one of my favorite versions of it. This is from Journeyman Pocket Edition by Zach Beer. By default, a result of 8 or higher indicates success, but the world is rarely rendered in absolutes, and the referee can and should use discretion to decide how much success or failure to ascribe to the situation when the result is close. These situations should change whenever the dice are cast. Combining this with an advantage mechanic can be very useful too. Character creation is another staple in the world of RPGs, with some games making it nearly impossible to create a character in a quick amount of time. Often multiple hours can be spent creating characters in mainstream RPGs. This is not necessary. Even the OSR often wants to create characters in minutes so you can jump into the game more quickly. The difference between OSR and FKR is largely that the characters in OSR are often expendable in the game being played, and quick character creation lets you jump back into play without much time missed. FKR more often than not wants to have you create a character with some depth that can be focused on existing in the world. This is interesting because no one's really mentioned this to me. It hasn't come up in the things that I've read thus far. So it's kind of an interesting differentiator. So I shall repeat it just for emphasis. FKR more often than not wants to have you create a character with some depth that can be focused on existing in the world. Okay, so that's good to know. Oh, no, nothing says that they're the person. Okay. Oh, well, you're a player. Nothing. You can't comment as a player. You got to comment as a ref. What is Dungeon Master Masterclass's collection like? Because as a player, you might buy very little, but it don't count. I'm talking about GMs, DMs, referees, whatever other word to use. Deep understanding of characters can be gained through a simple trait system that will help flesh out the character and who they are in the world without necessarily needing to quantify things in a way that would impose unneeded stress of learning new mechanics. Character creation. Write down, this is from Arnisonian Gaming by Matt Jackson. And so just a little aside, I believe this Matt Jackson is the one who came up with the 3 dice oracle that folks have been adding me, but attributing mistakenly to Daniel, because Daniel, who I've talked to himself, attributes it to Matt Jackson, and I'm thinking this one. So I'll have to check out that book. But I think this is where the 3d6 oracle comes from. So from Arnisonian Gaming, he states character creation. Write down a name, be evocative, and be creator. Names can imply traits. Write down a few words or phrases called traits about your character. The referee will approve or suggest changes. Traits should be specific and not overly general. Write down any gear you might be carrying. Gear should be specific items that may help with the quest. Your character has 4 hit points. The referee may award more if your traits suggest it. Many games have a slightly different take on this very simple character creation. Some even forego hit points and just worry about wounds and conditions that are inflicted upon the characters. This post has already gone longer than I wanted to. For a more in-depth discussion of FKR in the most FKR format possible, check out the FKR Lounge. All right. And then he's got some notes. So these are all very intriguing, right? I mean, I'm curious. I think something that's would be a good self-discovery thing is, and this is kind of what I was thinking about when I was working on that oracle, or as I am working on that oracle, it's called player facing, but maybe player guided, player input, whatever, is like, because people, a lot of the reaction at the first is like, oh, the players are getting to do this thing and it's tied to a skill. And it's like, one, the numbers are small, so it's not a big deal. And as the GM, I could push this, put my finger on the other side of the scale on the oracle if I want to make it something that's difficult or hard to determine, right? But part of the FKR mindset that intrigues me, and reading through Kismet in particular, was how much do we lose by letting go of some of these things that we might be adding a lot to? So, you're sitting, okay, you got to jump across a thing. Oh, it should be this target. Oh, this target. Is it very hard? Is it easy? And but it doesn't matter that much, right? You're going to have a party of 5 and each one of them needs to jump across this thing. Whatever that number is, whatever that resolution is, unless it's 99 out of 100, there's going to be some tension involved. There's going to be someone that probably fails, right? So let's say we were all playing Kismet and everyone had different Kismet numbers. Now they could try to game it for themselves and ask questions, presumably, or because I don't know if Kismet even meant to run it with a GM, but presuming that, whatever. But ultimately, there's still tension in those moments. And if it's not a number if the number is just, I don't even know, just abstract, or it doesn't really matter, it's not based on reality or whatever, how much are we losing? And especially when you get down to it, if you could find a system that just kind of worked and it took the barest things, like the things I want to be able to do with the system ultimately is I do want to be able to reflect difficulty in some way. and I want to be able to reflect character ability in some way. Part of why in that oracle that I floated was that the character's ability to influence the oracle goes up as they level up, because I like the idea that powerful characters almost have their own gravity in the world, and that yes, reality bends a little bit for a high level fighter, magic user, or thief, or cleric, or whatever. That's part of being powerful, is you are powerful, and the world kind of, if you were looking at the space time of the world, and when you're a low level character, it's flat, and when you're a high level character, it bends a little bit, like a little bit of a matrix effect. I kind of dig that. Yeah, powerful character can influence their world. It's almost like if they were to go down that path, they could become a Strahd on a demiplane, where he in his localized area really bends the world, but that there's a little bit of that even on the prime plane. I kind of dig it, right? And that's it. And if it was a different number, like in the end, I could spend a lot of time on those numbers. I could get really granular, or I could not. And what am I losing? Am I losing a lot? If I just said, hey, in other words, if you played a game like a one shot and said, you know what, everything is just rolling. We're going to roll a d20. If you roll over 10, you succeed. If you're under 10, you lose. If you roll under 5, that's a crit fail. And if you roll over 15, that's a crit success. If you just did that flat, let's say you're playing with level 1 characters, right? And just running everything kind of like that. Like, how much would you ultimately lose it? Because some players are still going to succeed. And you could even have like, hey, if you can find throw advantage, disadvantage on top of it to add something for, hey, you got some good stuff, advantage, good, bad stuff, disadvantage. I bet you just still have a lot of fun. I don't think you'd be losing a whole lot, even if everybody's rolling against the same target, right? Just maybe something to think about. And I think just having that conversation with yourself about, do we need it? Do we not need it? Does it really matter? Does it matter? Does it matter enough? Yeah, I think it's a good thing to think about. All right, RPG Grandma's put a bunch of stuff in here, and some other things happen too. So let's see. The Griffin says that they think we're at critical saturation with the sheer number of D&D hack systems and analogs. I think there's always probably room for more. And the only reason I say that, I tend to agree with you, Fluffy, but I will say that some things just speak better to certain people. There's always going to be something going to come out and it's going to speak like, OSC for BX, I think, is a good example, or Shadow Dark for folks is another good example, or whatever system comes out and has that thing that speaks to you. And I wouldn't want people to feel like there's so many, so we shouldn't do anything new. Maybe we should be looking further abroad. But I get it, because D&D is talking about gravity in the space. D&D's got all the gravity. So if you can hew and stay within some kind of orbit of D&D, you're probably going to do better than, in terms of if it's important to you with your product than you'd be if you go far afield. That said, it would be nice to kind of spread out more, but I think the one thing maybe it's coming is, I think it's becoming both easier and harder to find things, because on the one hand, with the internet and everything, you can always find stuff. But on the other hand, finding the stuff that's valuable, especially to an individual person, can be harder, because you're going to get the same results over and over again. You're going to get the same names. You're going to get stuff that's all over the field, right? It'd be nice to, maybe some of the AI could do that's helpful is come up with better ways to help find stuff you're looking for in kind of human readable language with search engines and such, which I think would help products that may be sitting out there that are amazing that people haven't heard of because it never got outside a certain circle. RPG Grandma says that pretty much agrees with Fluffy, saying at this point, what systems, dice, lack of dice, and other easy like. Yep. Well, I think this is true when you're experienced, right? I think as an inexperienced GM or player, you don't know that yet. But yes, certainly after you've been playing for a while, you're going to have a pretty good idea of these are the things that are going to be good for me, though I'm still surprised sometimes. So that's why I think it was someone who had responded to, what did I say about, I made a post. This is a while ago now, video on, basically playing the rules before you house rule it. Don't just run to house rule something out of the box. Just try it first. And someone pointed out this basic stuff, that they knew all this stuff and they had all this stuff and that they could put their own thing together first, and that they really required reasons for certain rules as opposed to just play it. But I think I still want to play a system first, because I'm not going to pretend that my experience of reading a game book is the equivalent of playing or running that game. And I think you never can spot everything. And this is a big thing where I found fault with people, especially earlier on, a few years ago, when people were kind of, I don't know if OSC was out yet, but kind of really drilling down into kind of the white box or BX or something. And I see that people would kind of find fault and want to nitpick stuff, but they were clearly had not played the game before. And so either they had missed something, and so they were nitpicking, and they'd misunderstood something, or they just didn't understand how all the systems work together. And I'm not going to pretend to be a super genius. So I'm like, if I read it, I'm not going to be able to have figured out how everything links together. When you actually go to play it, that's when you get that experience. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there, and you could go your life with only buying stuff that was published. Heck, you could have stopped. You could have gone with everything published up until like 1990, and you'd have more than a lifetime's worth of different intriguing games. But RPG Grandma also says all RPGs are abstract. It's a push-pull between simulator statistics reflected by dice variables and story, but it's all abstraction. So how much rounding you are wanting to do in style and statistics becomes the call. Very true. Deuce says, I like how Mythic does it. Depending on the chaos rating, the odds of yes, no, or extreme yes, no skew. Yeah, I like that. I do agree with you that chaos thing is good. And like in my system, I have a similar, I can invoke it that way also, something just to kind of shade the dice. But yeah, that's true. Terrence is leaving. Bye. Happy Thanksgiving, Terrence. Affecting the Oracle sounds Tavern to me, says Dave. It is kind of similar to that. It is kind of similar. But I like that kind of stuff. I do. And yeah, you can put it down to whatever you like. But yeah, the Tavern is this Wheel of Time. So it's been a long time since I read Wheel of Time, and I've watched the show off and on, but it's not that great. And I don't know how well it's done explaining things. But basically, this concept of having folks who are just sort of important in the timeline, or just have things kind of warp around them, basically. So you have these people who essentially, like I was saying, have this kind of gravity on reality. So things kind of just warp around in ways. Like, I feel like if you're in one of these games and you start on the first level and you get a guy up to 8th level or so, why not throw him a bone? Plus, he says they were looking at OSC Advanced Fantasy, but there's also Basic Fantasy. There's Osric and ADD, and I have no idea which to pick. I know I haven't read Advanced Fantasy. I've heard mixed things on it. I don't remember what the reasons behind the mixed feelings are. So I'm not sure, but I think ultimately you'll be fine with any of them, and they're so cross-compatible. If you get one and you like certain thing for the other one, you can always pull it in. I mean, my feeling is I would start with, so here's what I would do. So here's what I would do. I love BX, okay, but the great thing about BX, why what BX did, what it was meant to do back in the 80s, I think is why it became such a touchstone for the OSR later on, is it was a teaching version of the game. And it didn't throw everything at you all at once. It gave you, you had the basic part, which essentially is enough to get you to the dungeon. And then it had the expert part with your kind of hex crawling and then upper levels stuff. And it's great for that. It makes some people love the kind of species as class type thing. I like it a lot, but I don't mind separating it either. So I'm kind of in the middle. Like I don't mind it when it's being there, and I think it can actually do some good things, but I don't mind separating it. And some things that kind of clean up OD&D a bit in terms of presenting it for teaching, right? For teaching folks who weren't coming from a wargaming kind of place, kind of continuing the Holmes edition of trying to kind of reach beyond, I think, wargamers to this kind of new audience, and it was structured that way. So I love BX, but knowing everything coming from now, what I would do is I would just go straight back to the white box, and that would be my chassis. That's what I would start with. Start with the white box. And then I can build everything I want on top of it. That's what I would do now. That would be my choice. And then with the white box, like, Daniel's game, Bandit's Keep, he does a lot with the white box and chainmail, which is very cool. The closer you are, and I know a lot of folks will go, well, what do I need to use? What is chainmail good for? It's not even that great a wargaming system. Like, I don't know how chainmail rates as a war game compared to other war games. There's tons of war games, but what makes chainmail and OD&D so great is that you can get to a point like Daniel has in his game, in which everything just flows seamlessly. You can just all of a sudden have some kind of large scale conflict come through, and nothing really has to change. Yeah, I could find another system. I don't what Rangers of Shadow Deep or Shadowfell or something like that is I think it is Rangers of Shadow Deep is like a war game I've heard a lot about, kind of skirmish level war game, but it's a whole new rule system. I got to convert everything over. Well, White Box and the ODD don't really have to do that. It's all there. So that's kind of where I personally would start. And then I can pull things in from other editions and do whatever. And just as long as I kind of feel like that chassis in OD&D is just really strong. Let's see, some other folks in here. Delving Deeper. Yeah, RW mentioned Delving Deeper. Yeah, Delving Deeper, I mentioned a lot. I haven't mentioned it today, but I mentioned a lot because it's really good and it doesn't get talked about now. So thanks for reminding me. But your grandma says they do think that people get overwhelmed by too much rules at once. Yes. I mean, look, the white box, the thing is the white box, you can read it. It's probably easier to, I think the thing is, I don't think we can underestimate. Well, one, if you're reading the white box back in the day, you're probably coming from a wargaming group and you're reading it. So you had a background there that helped you with some things. Reading it back now is easier in some ways because we have all this D&D experience and knowledge, and we can kind of backfill it. Even if it doesn't, we don't mean to, we're just going to backfill it in there. So it's going to make more sense. That's the one thing with the white box is that it's really slight. It's slim. It's missing a bunch of stuff. Stuff in there doesn't super make sense. I haven't gone through and tried to kind of like put everything in order. But like I said, that chassis underneath there is just really nice, I find. Yep, Dave points out ODD was designed to be used with chainmail. Yep, absolutely. RW says chainmail streamlines adventures so well. It's basically fast play D&D. It does. If you're using kind of chainmail style combat, basically it does quicken things up a lot. Now, I wonder at times, my push-pull with that is at times I wonder if it quickens it up too much. But it does do a good job. Okay, so RW's the Fluffy Grim talking about first edition. Let's see what else is going on here. RW's is okay. So RW's talking about the first 3 books played as written. The RW's, the one thing with first, I mean, the play it as written, I think with first edition is very fraught. It's kind of a whole fraught phrase, I think. Okay, first edition rules as written. It's just tough. And the reason it's tough is that it's, look, the Gygaxian, high Gygaxian, as folks like to call it, can be interesting to read. There's a lot of wisdom in there, but things are not necessarily put together in the best way. And there are contradictions and gaps, even in just taking the first 3 books. There's just things in there that will just not make complete sense, or they will contradict each other, or they won't quite line up together in ways that when I hear rules is written, I always want to ask, well, which rules is written? All of the rules is written? I mean, you're talking, where's my DMG is actually not far away, but it's just out of reach. I'm not going to try to reach for it. It's a lot, it's a lot. It's a lot. Now, if you're playing with a VTT, I'm guessing Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, maybe some others, they might have an AD&D first edition. I'm sure they do. Template, pack, whatever you want to call it, rule set that you can probably use, that maybe you can hide in the mechanics of the machinery, a lot of the steps and things. But I can say this. I've gone to ShireCon a couple times now. I've gone to other conventions. I have talked to folks who, were intelligently and maturely playing D&D when I was still mucking around in my, Buster Browns. Didn't get too many of them. I didn't get anybody, actually, who, when I put the question straight to them, if they played AD&D rules as written complete, gave me an affirmative. So I'm very dubious. Very dubious. Not saying it couldn't happen. I'm not saying it can't. Not possible. Goodness knows it doesn't even seem like Gygax actually did it. But hey, it's some folks. But I never in my experience, either certainly not personally and not in my correspondence with anybody so far. I've run into folks who play AD&D rules is written complete. Maybe some rules is written, a selection of rules is written. I don't like modules. I would remember running into people playing, oh, we play with this rule. Oh, we play with that one. Oh, they play with these two. We play with these two. Oh, we play with some other combination. And maybe those rules as written they play with. But a complete AD&D first edition rules is written, all the rules, I haven't seen it. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying nobody's done it. I'd love to do that. Come to, if you're out there, set up a table at PAX Unplugged to run AD&D rules as written, all the rules, and I will come and play. I will sign up. Send me the sheet. I will sign up. I will be there. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be at PAX Unplugged. If anyone's at PAX Unplugged, I will be there. I don't know if you can run it. You might need to not try to explain everything and just do it as we go. Otherwise, you might not make it through. We're going to actually start playing before the time is out. And yes, and I'm not trying to throw shade. I love my 1E DMG. I've read it a few times on the channel. I'll find more stuff to read. I think the rules encyclopedia has a lot of good stuff in it. I have, even though BECMI's not my favorite version of Basic Expert, I have all the BECMI sets with those boxes. I've got a monster manual. I've got a player's handbook. I've got a DMG. I got it all, and I love it. I wouldn't trade them for anything. And they're great when I need something. I know that if I need something, and BX is not going to have it in there, and it probably won't. That one of the first places I might look is, let me go see what the DMG has to say. Right? I get it though. Rules is written 3, but look, from Dubs, I get the no splats thing. I totally get it. But just the DMG, they're so dense. The player's handbook, oh, it's so dense. Like, you don't need that. Even without the splats, it's a lot of density. And I just think at the time it was written, it's very idiosyncratic, and there's a lot going on. And sometimes it just doesn't all. I think if they were written down to more modern in terms of having like editors and maybe people really proofreading it and clarifying things, it would be different. But it's a lot. And I'm not trying to say that AD&D is bad. And I feel like it's one of those things. Hey, you know what? Try running it, because you could if you take out all the modules and run it. AD&D is essentially the white box plus Greyhawk with a couple of tweaks. Alignment changes, some things change, but basically that's what you have. If you just take away, if you go down to the chassis, like if you were to say, what is the chassis AD&D is built on? That's what it is. White box plus Greyhawk. And again, couple tweaks. And that's pretty much it. And then they just, they layer a bunch of stuff on top of it. It just gets confusing in the layers. In that layering, some confusion. And yes, you could do the 3 brown books with the monster manual just to get more monsters. DMG, I think, has a lot of situational things, but I don't know, though. I feel the need to bring it in completely, because I think the white box on its own is pretty darn A-okay. Did we lose? Okay, no, that was it. So that was that article. Yes. Right. You always see things that have, so RPG Grandma pointing out that first edition and second edition had conflicting rules. Even the white box era, you had conflicts. Yeah, there were things like Holmes does a little bit differently than white box, and that would always be kind of questions about that. And everyone, look, there's a letter. Oh, where did I get it from? I sent it to Daniel, and then I'll have to dig it up, but there was a great letter that Gygax wrote. Let me see if I can dig it up. I know I'm over time, but let's see if I can find it. Hold on a second. Oh, it's not going to be easy for me to find. It was a great letter that Gygax wrote from the 70s. I just wish I could find it. Hold on a minute. If I can find, I'll show it. But it was great because it's totally garage band punk Gygax as opposed to corporate Gary. So the point of view was completely different, and it's really refreshing, and of course makes a great counterpoint with when you read the intro to the DMG, which gives you essentially pretty much opposing advice to what Gary said in the white box, and in this article, it's from a letter that he wrote to a zine. Let me see if I can find it really quick. I'll dig it out. Otherwise, I won't, because I don't want to slow things down to a crawl, and I don't know how far. I know I have it on my phone somewhere, but I got so many photos on my phone. Things get very. I don't know. I'll have to dig it up separately because it's not coming up super fast, man. I'm still in Claricon. Oh yeah, I'll have to find it. I'll dig it up. I'll do a stream on it, or at least maybe a video because it's great. Dave says they feel that the conflicts were there to empower the game master. You needed an arbitrator just to read the book. RBG Grandma says, I think there's an art to GMing that folks have to understand. You create, you use, and kit bash the GM. Raw is a guide to get you going. Yeah, I think the thing is where Raw brought in more and more importance, I think, is in the organized play era. Right. And that's kind of what AD&D itself was addressing. I know it was part of it was to get out, hopefully to get out from under Artisan, which didn't work. But also it was to setting things up for organized play. Because when you're playing at your own table, how you're doing stuff, I don't think Gary really cared. I don't think any of them, at least early on, they don't care. But when you're going to be going to local game stores, you're going to cons, you're going to group play with lots of people, having the rules be the same across your experience, when you might be taking a character sheet from one store to another store, or one thing for another thing, this is really helpful. And 5th edition had that too, right? Adventures League, very big. And ideally, you can just take your character or take this thing from one game, drive across the country, go to another table, and it's basically the same game. And it's not everybody running things completely differently. I get that, aspect of it. All right. I guess I'm going to shut her down here as folks are starting to come in. My cat was scratching at the door, and I see somebody else watching me from the doorway. So that's my cue. That's my cue to let her go. Yep. Chaos Junction says they love the image of a rock back, younger, edgier Gary. Yes. Well, I mean, you go find his stuff from the late 70s, just what he says, and it's just a different mindset. Garage band Gary versus corporate Gary. Folks, I want to just thank everybody. It's Thanksgiving, so I want to give thanks. I want to give thanks to you. I don't know, but just before, I think I'll probably do a separate video on this, maybe tomorrow on literal Thanksgiving, but I guess I'm just going to float it here first. Is it just me, or there are lots of folks whose videos I see on YouTube where they're quitting the scene? A lot of them are much bigger than I am. Getting out there, change of life, whatever, burnt out, and all these things. And you folks make it so that I'm not burnt out. I don't get burnt out doing this. I enjoyed the conversations. It hasn't gotten old. Maybe it'll happen, but when I look at my channel dashboard and I look at how many videos I've done, can I even see? I've got. Can I see how many videos? Hold on a minute. Let me just see. I'll go to content. All I've got. Okay, so if I go to lifetime, all right, so lifetime, here we go. Lifetime, I have done 539 live streams, 347 videos, 184 shorts, and that's about long and short of it. So I think if I recall now, I've topped 1,000 bits of content of various types. Most of it long form. Not quite 1,000 if I'm just including long form stuff. But I'm going to pass it eminently. Let's see, 6 carry the 1, 8. I'm at 886. I don't know if that includes today or not in terms of videos. And most of those videos, because most of the live streams are over an hour each. So that's a lot. And I haven't gotten burnt out yet. I feel like I can take a break here and there, or if I miss a day here and there, it's nothing horrible is going to happen. And that's because you guys come and you hang out and you help me, give me the reason why I come and turn on the stream every time I do it or publish a video. And I just want to say thanks. I appreciate it. And of course, thanks to the folks who have, become channel members or joined the Patreon and help. Also, that helps me a lot with just being able to afford like equipment and stuff or afford books and things. So I just want to say thanks. It's Thanksgiving. You know, and you guys make this all possible, because if I had to keep screaming into the void, or I wasn't screaming, streaming into the void might be a better word. I probably would have quit. But you know, you guys have made all this happen. So just want to appreciate it. Ardub says they just ended a 3-year stream run, close it down and do some new things. No burnout, but it was time to end that one. Yeah, I get it. I mean, you know, the one thing say with my channels, I'm not just on one particular thing. I mean, granted, people know me mostly from hex crawl stuff. And if I just doing hex content, I probably would have had to stop, or just I think I might be just repeating videos. I probably need to go and do some refresher videos anyway, but I don't have to just do that, because yeah, but I could see how that would work. And then nothing says they don't watch large YouTube creators. Their content is soulless in the same way corporate content is. Well, I try to keep my soul, you know. Supply Chaos Junction says supply and demand. I've got what we're looking for. Well, I appreciate it. But I just want to say thank you. And I know, folks. I know, you know, this is the thing. I know that, you know, this is gonna sound like some kind of humble brag, but folks tune in from all over the world. I know Krister's from somewhere in the Scandinavian countryside. Well, I don't know if he's in the countryside, somewhere in the wilds of Scandinavia. I know there are folks other places. So not everyone's going to have Thanksgiving off. I will be off tomorrow and Friday for the Thanksgiving holiday. Even if you're not having a Thanksgiving holiday, just take a moment tomorrow. Just, you know, say thanks to the folks who are important to you. Hug them close. You never know what a day will bring, for good or for ill. And, you know, other than that, find me at PAX. If you're coming to PAX Unplugged, drop me a line. Come find me. Come say hey. Maybe we can, you know, grab a coffee or something. I'd love to do something with folks, but everyone's scattered about, and I don't know who's going to different cons. Maybe eventually there'll be a con I'll go to where we'll have enough of the community will be that we can actually, you know, kind of do something organized. But for now, just in the disorganized manner, if you're in the Philly area, not this weekend, but next weekend, I shall be around. So come find me. Dave wished he could hit it up. Yeah, I mean, I know it depends on where you live and you know, which part of the country and all that. But if you get, you know, I'm going to try to do more cons and stuff. Hopefully things will get to a point where I can invest in doing more cons. That's another thing where channel memberships and Patreon helps, because it just gives me money for the war fund to go to different cons and do stuff. RPG Grandma's lunch schedule changes. I hear you. Happens to me as well, which is why the start times of these streams floats around. But all that said, folks, have a great rest of your day, night, wherever you are watching or listening to this, whether it's now, later, in the far-flung future. I will definitely hit you up in the Pacific Northwest, and I know I owe you that right up to Dave. I'm going to get on that. But have a great anytime. Game on, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.